Hey people, hope you're all well on this glorious day. Today I want to share a story with you. It's a story I've told many times before in the past, but maybe not all in one go, and definitely not as a post on social media. It's a story that I hope some of you might find inspiring. I want to be very real. It's an emotional story to me, and I may not get it all out in one go, but it's probably going to help to tell this story long term. It's a story of mental resilience, and mental resilience is defined as the capacity to recover from difficulties or toughness. Over 11 years ago, I met my wife. We dated for a while before I knew she was the one. And a couple of years later, I proposed to her in New York City on the eve of her birthday. It was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done, looking back. I remember when she opened the ring box and I had it upside down. So in the beginning she was presented with nothing. Anyway, after our first challenge together, which was selling a current house and moving, we decided it was probably a good time to start a family. So we got to work, as you do, which was fun to begin with, until fast forward a couple of years and nothing seemed to be happening. We got a bit desperate and we started researching everything to find out the best approach. Things like when the moon was in Jupiter, the temperature rises in ovulation. We even spent a whole year proving the guarantee on a little egg that nested inside you know where wrong, as after a year using it we still weren't pregnant. I'd even bought and I was injecting myself in the stomach with some black market HCG, as I was told it'd give me super spunk, and I'm shit scared of needles. I was even nearly tempted to take an ecstasy tablet, as a pal of mine swore blind that's how him and his missus got pregnant, because they were so relaxed after taking them. Anyway, out of options and still desperate, we decided down the IVF route, and we were granted 3 rounds on the NHS. I remember the first time we went to the hospital, we're all giddy and we're excited, and we knew that in 9 months' time we were going to be parents pretty much. I remember seeing some really glum faces in the room, and I couldn't understand for the life of me why they wouldn't be excited like me and my wife. Anyway, we knew the second time round, as we had the same glum faces. Fast forward on another 2 tries and we still had no luck. Even after witnessing what my wife had to endure with all the sickness, the tiredness, the injections in her stomach, the tears, the fact she had to pass the fetus out into the toilet after being told it was unsuccessful, it was proper gruesome. Truth be told, after the first go, I didn't want to go again. I like my wife. She's an happy-go-lucky person, you know. Anyway, after the 3rd attempt and we were out of options, we began to save to go private, as we'd heard that they glue the embryos to keep them in place. And this was one of the problems, the previous problems before, as the little fellas, they weren't for sticking around. Anyway, if you know, it's quite expensive, and it took us a while to save up the dosh, about 6 grand. But in that time, a miracle happened, and we were overjoyed that after all that, we got pregnant naturally. We weren't lepers after all. 9 weeks later, bad news, miscarriage. My wife had to undergo surgery to have the fetus removed, and I think that was the straw that brought the camel's back. Just before we got pregnant, me and the wife were debating an option that had presented itself to us, or an option that I think in defence of what was going on, I'd pushed for a little bit. We had the option and a sponsor willing to sponsor us to move to Santa Monica, Los Angeles. I landed a job in a boxing gym in Los Angeles and just needed to qualify for the visa to get us there. We met up with Tony Jeffries, the owner of Box and Burn over in LA, and straight away knew that we were on the same page and we got on really well. After that, we returned back to the UK and set the ball rolling to try and obtain a visa. Now, this was difficult, it wasn't easy at all, as there's tons of trainers in LA, as you can imagine. So I had to show that I was pretty much a big deal, and that was done by showing the amount of media attention you'd received for your work as a trainer and the notable people that you'd trained, which at the time was pretty much zero. I had to come so far out of my comfort zones, and for once in my life I had to ask people for help, which isn't something I do easily. Anyway, help is what I got when I asked for it, bizarrely enough, and after about a whole year of trying, I finally had enough of the criteria to apply for the visa. During this time though, I received a call from the wife telling me that we were going to LA. I remember she was frantic on the phone. I was thinking, she's gone mad. She was super excited. I said, yes, listen, I know chick, I know we're going to LA. I said, we've just got to put a little bit more work in there and get a couple more stories in the media, and then we'll qualify for the visa and we'll be accepted. She said, no, you idiot, we're going in June. I just want a trip on the radio to LA, all expenses paid. Did you not hear it? And I was actually gutted because, being the old crooner that I am, I'd literally just changed the channel over from Capital FM with all the funky tunes on to Smooth FM because I'm an old giffer. Anyway, so we went back to LA and again met Tony again. This time he wanted to see what I was all about on the mitts. So I did a session with him and hung around the gym, as it's a really cool place to chill and there's tons of cool people there and tons of cool people that train there as well. It seemed like finally, after all the crap, it seemed like God had a plan for me and the missus, and we were destined for big things in Los Angeles. My missus could finally live the Kardashian life she'd become so accustomed to in Rochdale. Anyway, it turns out the US Embassy in London had other ideas. I was first sent by my lawyer mistakenly for a visa I was never going to get from the outset, as a mistake had been made. I remember how excited we were when we were in the queue waiting to get our passports stamped for our move to LA. I mean, we were that excited, we even put our house on the market and sold it. So now we were homeless as well. Anyway, we applied for the wrong visa, or my lawyer did at least, so it was back to the drawing board. Fast forward on a fast application to try another visa, and we were approved again. This time it was it. In May 2017, we were granted by the state of California an all-1A visa for a person of extraordinary ability, basically an X-Men, Professor Xavier, I guess. Another nervous trip to the embassy, a surprise bump into Richard Branson, a nice chat with the lady in the first window about kickboxing, and it all seemed set in stone and perfect until we met the cat lady at the next window. She asked me a bunch of questions you wouldn't believe, about the visa, who I've trained, what is Ireland was one of her questions. Anyway, I could feel our dreams drifting away from us as we're talking to her. She sent me away without a passport stamp, and she tells me she'd be in touch mid next week and we'll sort it out. 4 weeks after, I get served a notice of intent to revoke the visa. London had sent the case back to California and told them to revoke the visa from me. In the meantime, later in the year, the sister-in-law, she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and most of our time outside work was spent in the hospice, and she sadly lost that fight in the end and passed away in the autumn. Something at the time we thought might be a reason why we weren't approved the visa, as we were needed at home, you know. I'm telling you this story now as my 3-year visa, weirdly enough, that I never actually held in my hand, and haven't been able to travel to the USA for the past 3 years because of it. Well, it ran out 3 days ago. Well, maybe the urge of me telling this story now is kind of my way of putting the whole saga to bed. I mean, over the past 4 years, we estimate that we've spent well over £15,000 on this whole saga, and we have absolutely nothing to nothing to show for it, and no ability to travel to the US. But that's where my story, although it doesn't have an happy ending as such, it's one of resilience, it's one of grit and pure grind, and these are the lessons that I've learned over the past 10 years as some of the biggest events of my life have happened in this time. It would have been really easy to give up at any given point in this journey, to just admit defeat, take the foot off the gas and become depressed and unmotivated. But the lessons learned from these tough times have shown me that I have a stronger than average marriage. My wife is happy. I'm happy also. As a direct result of the pursuit of the visa, I have a bigger name than I ever did in the industry now than before. I've done some pretty cool things as a result of the pursuit of the goals. Although we did not make it to our dream destination, we've leveled up in all aspects of our life, and I almost believe that anything is possible when we've got each other. Did I believe 4 years ago I'd have jumped in a boxing ring in Los Angeles with a Hollywood movie star? Did I believe I'd have taken a big name producer on the mitts, worked with various celebrities and football clubs? I don't think I could have imagined all that back then. No, I couldn't imagine it. Some kid from Rochdale doing all this, from Waldo Village. Anyway, I'm not putting this story out there for sympathy. It's just another story, but it's one I hope that someone will see, and hopefully it'll resonate with you, and hopefully you'll get my aim with sharing this story. The ability to bounce back from adversity is something I reckon we all have. We just have to dig around in our brains and think of a time when times are hard, and then we can draw on those experiences to help make us stronger and even more resilient going forward. It's all, again, a matter of reps. Here I am telling my story, and it doesn't even have an happy ending. In that, I mean, I didn't, or I haven't yet hit the dream goal, but I can clearly see that it wasn't all a wasted journey, and I'm a better, more resilient person as a direct result of everything that's happened in the past. It's quite fitting also that my time to share this story is now, as it's Mental Health Awareness Week. My aim with this is that I hope someone sees it somewhere, and I hope someone benefits from me sharing this story. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Love to you all. Keep your chin up. You got this.